Everyone has their own definition of a great road. For some, it's wide open, fast and flowing A-road. Some prefer tighter corners and more gradient, and some riders like the really squirrely single-track stuff with humps, bumps, yumps, and blind bends. Some like riding at a decent lick, picking the right lane, and some prefer a more leisurely pace admiring the scenery. And some are two-ups on mega tours, some solo on sport bikes. Scotland's roads cater to it all. And here's our top 10 Scotland motorcycle routes. Number 10. The A830 Mollig to Fort William. The A830, also known as part of the Road to the Isles, is the perfect palate cleanser, following a leisurely ride around Skye, ready to head back to the mainland. The Armadale to Mollig ferry takes 45 minutes to cross Skye's southern peninsula and drops you in Mollig, a small port that was once Europe's most prodigious supplier of herring. The A830 to Fort William was built in the early 19th century by famed civil engineer Thomas Telford, and judging by its hectic layout, not for nothing, Telford was also known as the Colossus of Roads. Many other roads in Scotland and North Wales bear his signature. The A830 is a rider's road with good grainy Scots tarmac and a fabulous well-paced rhythm with multiple complex bends flowing into one another. Number 9. The A83 and the A816 Tarbet to Oban. The biggest problem with riding on the west coast of Scotland is knowing which road to choose. Pick one route and you immediately dismiss the other classics. Such is the dilemma faced by riders who reach Tarbet. 2/3 along the length of Loch Lomond on the A82 north from Glasgow, turn right, staying with the A82, you get to a dazzling run of lochside bends before Cranlarrick. Then the increasingly imperious Glencoe ride. Still on the A82, see further up the list, but if you turn left onto the A83, you're in for a different kind of ride. Less of the epic glacial majesty, more of your lush tree-lined lochs and moderate mountain runs. And the road itself is a sweeping rush whoop of delight, lacing small towns and villages together as it loops around the head of Loch Long, climbs through Glen Crow, then drops along Glen Kinglas and loops again around the top of Loch Fyne. Number 8. The A836 and the B9176, John O'Groats to Eventon. The A9 and the A99, threading up the east side of Scotland's coastline to John O'Groats isn't a bad bit of a riding, but it's a measure of how good the west coast is. It's often seen as a bit of a warm-up act to the real thing. But if for some reason you find yourself at a JOG and not wanting to complete the full NC 500, but don't fancy just riding back down the A9 again, a diversion along the top of the mainland on the A836 as far as Tongue, and then a giddy drop across the heart of Sutherland. Still on the A836, cascading all the way pretty much back to Inverness is a good alternative. The first part of the A836 through Thurso is fairly unprepossessing, but gets livelier past Ray, flying past glorious beaches of Melvick, Strathy, Armadale, and Betty Hill. Stay on the A836 as it unexpectedly turns left off the main road just before Tongue, snaking up into bleak expanse of mountains wilderness heading south towards Altanahara, location of the UK's lowest ever recorded temperature of negative 27.5 C on the 30th December 1995. Number 7. The A712, Crocketford to Newton Stewart. Dumfries and Galloway is something of an overlooked Scottish gem, stretching from the far side of Moffat in the east across the M74 and reaching over the western coastline at Stranraer. The country is nothing if not varied in landscape. The center of the region is dominated by the Galloway National Park, in an area of forest, high moorland, and lochs with a special desolate beauty. Through its center runs the A712. Like the country as a whole, there is something for everyone on the A712. Also known as the Queensway for the second half of its length, the road peels off the A75 outside Dumfries at the Galloway Arms Hotel, and for the first 4 miles it's an unspectacular but rhythmic roll, twisting lazily through low farmland and dry stone walls. Number 6. The A832 and the A896, Ullapool to Tornapress. Part of the NC 500's best bits is the A832, which actually comes off the A835 trunk road, some 12 miles south of Ullapool, and the A896 that connects with it at Kinloch U features some of the route's best riding and scenery. Just as going on the A835 starts to get wide open, the A832, turning on the right at Big Bus Stop Lay-by, signposted for Dundonnell, Altby, and Gairlick, looks to return to some of the Nadgery stuff you might have experienced further back north along the NC 500. A lot of riders think the NC is all big, fast, wide-open roads for some reason. Nothing could be further from reality. I've seen wider footpaths than parts of the NC 500. Number 5. The A702, the A701, and the A708. St. Johnstown to Dallery to Moffat. Don't tell everyone how good it is around here. They'll all want a bit of it. So goes common refrain from riders in the know. And their secret? It's Dumfries and Galloway again. And the road split across the M74 towards the borders to the east. The epicenter of this region is focused around Moffat, where conveniently you'll find the Buccleuch Arms Hotel, not to be confused with the hotel of the same name in Melrose on the A68. Possibly one of the most biker-friendly hotels in the country, ran by the Smith family. Dave, the boss, knows roads around here like the back of his G6's tank. If for some unlikely reason you can't find anywhere to ride, he'll put you on the right track. The A702, the A701, and the A708 are proper riding roads. The scenery can't help but be impressive, but the tarmac is the star of the show. Number 4. The A939 and the A93. Grandtown-Espey to Blairgowrie. The Cairngorms are a distinct range of mountains east of the traditional rides, around the west coast and defined on the western flanks by the A9 trunk road between Perth and Inverness. But on the eastern side, the A939 and the A93 are much more scenic, challenging, and exciting ride. Just after crossing the Spey, the A939 picks up the challenge of matching the West Coast marvels. It's one of 3 roads claiming to be the highest in the UK. At just over 700 meters above sea level, the temperature in the Cairnwell Pass drops a few degrees as you wind between the peaks. Then the long run down to Blairgowrie starts, the longest and most intense set of whoops, doops, bends, twists this side of the motocross track. It's a riot, so intense there's no time to contemplate scenery. By the time you roll into Blairgowrie, you'll be ready for a rest. Number 3. The A890, the A896, and Baklava Tire to Applecross. The distance and time tell a story. 35 miles seems like a short hop, but the wonders on the way will stop you in your tracks if the hairpins don't. And the ride can take half a day. The A890 is a side-turning right off the A87, signposted for Loch Carron but easily missed. To start with, it's fairly smooth and wide, but tightens rapidly as it climbs. Barely an A road, rising up and down through the conifers and over the top of low hills like a drunken eel. After a splendid view across Loch Carron, the road drops down and winds up running along the southern bank of Loch Carron, following the Kyle Railway line. It crosses at Strathcarron and then takes a left onto the A896, doubling back through Loch Carron itself. Take your time through the village. In years gone by, a minority of villagers proposed discussing the feasibility of actually banning bikes from the village, an idea overwhelmingly rejected by the rest of the village. Number 2. The A82, Balloch to Inverness. There are 2 trunk roads in Inverness. The A9, big, wide, some dual carriageway, carries the bulk of the freight and business traffic. And the A82 handles the tourists so it gets a bit busy at lunchtime. It starts north of Glasgow, but the first few miles are standard getting out of town stuff. Then soon, it runs alongside the western edge of Loch Lomond. Towards Tarbet, trees and hills take over. There's something intensely thrilling about the sudden shift in landscape, from an urban trudge to big skies, big trees, big rocks, big water, all shrouded in mist. As the A83 swings right at Tarbet, it narrows into a fiendish series of corners, winding under trees following the loch's edge, then explodes into wide skies again as it nears Cranelarrick, all speedy conifer plantations blurring in a streak of lark green, with the rising topography of Benmore blending brown and purple hues in the background. Number 1. A87, Invergary to Uig. Other roads have better scenery, but not by much. Other roads are better pure riding tracks, again, not by much. But if you want the best combination of both, with the added bonus of a decent 100-mile stretch, then the A87 is the one. Out of Invergary, the road climbs uphill, twisting through the purple heather hillsides and ranks of slender silver birch glimmering and shivering in the breeze. The dusty gray tarmac, starting to break up in places but still plenty grippy enough to shred tires, rise back and forth, trying to catch you out as you sneak looks over your shoulder down across the Loch Garry, out towards the Loch Loyne. As the A87 crests the ridge, it feels high on top of the world, with striking views across Loch Loyne, to the mountains beyond, and Clew Annie Forest. Up here in the air, filtered through dazzling sunlight, tastes fresher. Do let us know in the comments where you would like to have a ride. Thanks for watching.